everybody, this is Judy at Judy in the Kitchen. I don't know about you, but I really don't like to run my oven in the warm months. And so roasting vegetables for me is not going to happen that often over the summer. So I've got a recipe that I want to show you, and it's how to cook carrots and parsnips on the stove, deliciously glazed with orange and honey and infused with ginger. Now, before we get into actually cooking, I want to show you how I cut these carrots up. They're cut on a diagonal and into roughly bite-sized pieces, a little large, but still bite-sized pieces. And I'm doing this deliberately because I've got carrots and parsnips here, and the parsnips can have a little bit of a woodiness in their core, and by cutting them on a diagonal, it exposes more of that core and it'll help them to cook that much faster. Now, for the large pieces of parsnip, I've actually cut it in half, like you can see here, to expose even more of that core, and that will allow it to cook a little bit better rather than just slicing it down. And I have roughly 2 cups of cut up carrots here, and I was striving for 2 cups of parsnips. I actually have a little more than that because I wound up with 1 parsnip that was a little large, and I didn't want to leave part of it cut and in the refrigerator because they will turn dark, so I didn't want that. So, you know, it's roughly 2 cups of each of the vegetables, carrots and parsnips, and it does not have to be exact, okay? Now, we've got roughly a tablespoon of butter here that I'm going to allow to melt. If you want to use extra virgin olive oil, you can. I'm using butter for the sake of the flavor more than anything in this recipe. If you prefer to do without the butter, you can. Your glaze will just be not quite as thick, not quite as rich. Okay, so now we're going to add the carrots and the parsnips. And now I have a piece of ginger. It's roughly a 1/2 inch slice of ginger by roughly a 1/2 inch. We're not actually going to eat this, but the flavor from the ginger is going to infuse into this dish. I just felt like with these carrots and parsnips, I didn't want the grated pieces of ginger in there, and it is pretty strong in the flavor even when you eat it grated. So I just want the flavor of the ginger, but not the bite of it so much. So we're going to just infuse it in this by leaving it whole, and we'll just pick it out at the end where it's not going to be eaten by anybody. So that helps to get that flavor in here. Alright, you can see some of these pieces are a little large. You could cut them a little bit smaller, and the smaller you cut them, the faster it's going to cook. So, now we're not trying to get this to brown or anything like that. So now I have 1.25 cups of orange juice. Whatever orange juice you prefer to use, you use. Now I'm going to turn the heat up. I had it on about medium heat. Turning it up because I want to bring this to a boil. And once I bring it to a boil, I'll be covering it and stirring it occasionally until the carrots and the parsnips are not quite as tender as I want them to be. Alright, you can see my juice is coming to a boil there, so I'm going to turn it down to medium heat. I just want these to cook fairly slowly, and we're going to allow them to cook until they're not quite fork tender. Stir them every now and then. Alright, as you can see, now they're on medium heat and they're at a slow simmer. And I'm going to just cock this lid a little bit because I want that juice to reduce as these things cook. We're about 8 minutes into this, and no, they are not cooked yet, but I'm going to take the lid off. I want this juice to reduce. They are not finished cooking. Carrots are still pretty hard. The parsnips are cooking. They're all cooking, but they're not done yet. But I do want that juice to kind of reduce some. So lid is going off. We still have a ways to go, but what I'm going to do at this point is put 1 tablespoon of honey in this and allow that to blend in really well with everything and sweeten everything up in its own way. Alright, we are about 20 minutes into this and we see a lot of the juice has gone away. Now what I'm going to do is add 1/3 cup of walnuts that I have coarsely chopped. We want to do this for the omega-3s in there. Really, the fat helps our bodies to absorb that beta-carotene that's in the carrots. So a little bit of walnuts, if you can tolerate them. If not, leave them out. 21 minutes into this, once I added the walnuts, it didn't take long for the rest of that juice to dry up. And the carrots are still have a little bit of crunch to them. The parsnips are done. Depends on the size of the carrot that I poke here. So we've got very little of the juice left and it's thickening up and it looks really nice. And so I'm just stirring it just to warm up those walnuts and soften them just a little bit. And we're just about ready to call it done. Just allowing this to stay in here just a little longer for the rest of those bigger chunks of carrots. So a helpful hint here might be to cut the carrots a little smaller than you cut the parsnips, because the parsnips are going to cook a little faster, a little easier than the carrots will. So bear that in mind. I'll have that tip in the recipe, which is below in the description box. Here's our finished product, and if you want to dress it up just a little bit more, you can sprinkle some parsley flakes on there. These are dried parsley flakes. You can add fresh or dried, whatever you have on hand. And there we go. They are beautiful. The recipe is in the description box. Give this a try sometime and let me know how it works for you. This is Judy at Judy in the Kitchen. Bye for now.